Hi, I'm David Paris. I'm the Curator of Natural History here at the New Jersey State Museum. And here we are in the State Museum's preparation laboratory. It's a public laboratory. We carry on much of our work and can interact with visitors. Now, when we say preparation here at the State Museum, we're usually talking about preparing fossils. Actually, that is a skilled trade. We call them preparators. They take much training, and experience is actually the only thing that really trains you in the end. So I'd like to show you today some of the things that we are preparing among the fossil collections here at the State Museum, so you can get a variety and an idea of the skill that it takes. As I said, everything is different. Every specimen, every situation is different. Very often, the most important part of a preparation job is deciding exactly what you want to do and then the methods of how you're going to do it. Here we have a situation of fossil preparation. This is a fossil crocodile jaw. But often when you start out, something is embedded completely in rock, very much like this one tooth of the crocodile still is. This is a difficult job to decide, because in this case you want to free the specimen quite completely from the rock, and you want to make sure that it can be studied fully. Well, in this case, the fossil, the crocodile, was partly exposed by erosion, so some of these parts of the crocodile were in pretty good shape and didn't have to be cleaned up very much at all. But if you're working around teeth, sometimes it's a good idea to have dental tools, and that's the kind of thing we used for much of this work. It actually enabled us to pick away the grains of sand from around the rock. But in this particular case, it was the rock type is called a lime sand, so this became a more specialized type of decision. Lime sand meant that this would soften in acid. So we set up small basins, and we put vinegar and its equivalent acetic acid in there, and we would soak the fossil for some time before we went ahead to clean it. So that's a combination of physical and chemical techniques enabled us to bring out this crocodile fully, and much of it is pretty much as you see here, very clean and very ready for full study. This is a very special bone. This is a pterosaur bone, a pterodactyl, the only one ever found in the state of North Carolina, and it's special because it's three-dimensional. Usually in the fossil record, when you find pterosaur bones, they're smashed flat because they are so very thin. So when this one was found and brought to us and donated to us, it had to be treated with great care. We always try to treat everything with potential delicacy. There's perhaps a stereotype that we use a hammer and chisel on things. That is not generally the case. In this particular case, it was very, very difficult. It's difficult to see here because we have this largely clean now, but this bone is so thin that the bone is actually thinner than the grains of sand that surround it and fill it. So it was very difficult to prepare again and had to be done under a binocular microscope. I did this one myself. I felt like I had to learn everything about it while preparing it. It was almost completely embedded, and it was in 3 parts. So I put it under the scope, and I had to take a small needle, a pin vise, and pick out 1 sand grain at a time to get it clean. I could stand to do this for about 1 hour a day before it became just too much of a stress. So it took me 1 hour per day for 2 months to clean this one bone, just picking away the sand grains and then finally gluing it together. But it's a very important specimen, and it was worth that much trouble. And the lesson to be learned here is you always have to be prepared to do the most delicate possible part of fossil preparation. This is a very interesting specimen that shows very much what several stages of preparation, when they are necessary, will take place. This is a fossil turtle from Montana, and I'm holding it upside down here. Here's one that I'm holding in the same position so you can get the idea. You're seeing mostly the plastron, which is the bottom shell. But this specimen is very important because very few fossil turtles will have the shell, the skull, and other types of bones all together. And this one actually has that. So you can actually see the neck in close to a life position here. And the one that was found, it had eroded out of the rock largely already. So all we found was a big pile of rubble. To collect it in the field, we simply put out a blanket and picked up all the pieces that we could find, anything that was likely to have bone, and carried them back to our truck and brought them back here to New Jersey. Here in this public laboratory, the next stage took place, and it was very much like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. The bones just had to, the rock was actually put back together, the bones with it, and actually that's when the skull was found. The skull was found in a piece once we got back here and was not known when we were in the field. And then it was glued together in the original rock position. Then a skilled preparator cleaned it off using machine tools such as vibrating electrical apparatus, and it was freed from the rock. It was so thoroughly embedded that when it was in the field we didn't know we had such parts as one fully articulated foot. That was found only during preparation, very careful preparation. Again, this is a very good three-dimensional specimen now, and it shows us the sculpture and the important parts of the shell, the full anatomy of the skull, and it is uncrushed, which in the case of this particular turtle has pretty much never been seen before. The first thing you'll notice about this specimen is actually how we collected it in the field. This is a plaster jacket technique. If you find something in the field, frequently you want to keep everything in the same positions and you want to encase it and take it out. Sometimes these can be very large specimens. This is a big horned dinosaur, possibly Triceratops, and it was collected a few years ago with that technique. You isolate the specimen, cover it with some kind of padding, such as paper towels or something like that. You cover it with plaster mixed with burlap, and then comes the hardest part. You flip it over. You want to do this as quickly and as smoothly as possible. And with that, then you put a lid on it and you can transport it and bring it here to the laboratory where it's cleaned on top of this table. This may be the closest you can see to the real stereotype of hammer and chisel, because that's often how we remove some of the matrix. That doesn't mean it's crude. It's still a delicate process. We still do everything we can to protect the bone. When you get the bone out, it can look very much like this. It can be fully cleaned and preserved with glue. So this specimen is just beginning to be prepared. It's going to last a long time. There's going to be a lot of steps ahead of us. Here is the horn from the horned dinosaur, and it actually had partly eroded out to where you could tell what it was, but this large rock, which is too big for me to pick up, is still has to be removed from the fossil for full preparation. This one does fit the stereotype again. You can see where with the mallet and the chisel marks were made because a lot of the crude exterior was taken, but the process itself is not crude. The process is still delicate. This was a lot of work and it's still taking place. There's a lot yet to be done. But when you get in close, as you can see, there are no big marks from the chisel in there. When you get up close, you use the dental tools and other fine operations again to actually free it up. With this particular case, we don't even really know what the portion in the back looks like, and we have to take it very slowly as we go through there. At least 3 skilled preparators have already worked on this one, and it still has a long ways to go. And the other important part to remember is even though it looks big and solid, both during and especially after the process of cleaning away the rock, you will add glue that will penetrate and protect it for a very, very long time.